Hey everyone, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to Relevant Jukebox, and today we're going to talk about this new album from Undo K from Hot, Get a Star. Disorienting and noisy might be the best way to go about starting to describe this new band from Zach Hill of Death Grips and Nick Reinhardt of Terra Mellos, and this is their debut album that just dropped recently with basically no promotion whatsoever. And given the personnel that are involved in this project, going into it I was expecting something odd and strange, but leaving the project, I'm almost still scratching my head in awe of just how cryptic and overwhelming this release comes off. It's like if a band like Atari Teenage Riot got mixed with the i.l.y.s, but add in some of the fuzzy and muddy production styles that landed on Year of the Snitch, and also a lot of the glitchy aesthetics that happened on the first half of the Powers That Be. Throw that all together with this industrial hardcore punk ethos and just off-the-walls energy that does not let up for the whole project, and combine that with some of the very odd song structure styles that landed on Zach Hill's early solo material like Astrological Straits, and that's kind of where this lands. Honestly, there were a few spots on here where I had to double take because I almost thought I was listening to Death Grips. You could take instrumentals from tracks like Incomplete Spanx or Missing Information as a couple examples, and you know, if Ride had shown up with vocals on some of those tracks, I would have been sworn it was new Death Grips material. Honestly, this thing is just like so in your face. The first time I listened to this, it went right over my head. The only thing that was really jumping out to me was just all the chaotic, noisy sounds, and oddly enough, I found myself trying to catch up to the pacing of the project, which isn't exactly slow, and you're led in all of these different directions on every single track, with each part not really lasting too long before it moves on to another one. But after like my second and third passing of this record, I feel like the dust settled a little bit, and I was able to kind of decipher a little more what was going on, and it made listening to this thing a lot more rewarding when I kept returning to it. Now, the vocals on this project are pretty quiet and buried in the mix most of the time and shrouded in effects, which can make it pretty hard to decipher what they're saying. But what ended up really impressing me is, given how noisy and chaotic and in your face everything is, they were still able to weave in a lot of pop accessibility with some pretty viral hooks. The track Back Pages being probably the best example and a big standout in the project for me. The instrumental has a pretty weird groove to it overall and kind of reminds me of the i.l.y.'s track All She Does Is Kill Shit, but just a lot more noisy and heavy. And what really stuck out to me is just how catchy the vocals are on the verses and also on the chorus. I mean, I cannot get this track out of my head. It's pretty much one of my favorite tracks I've heard so far this year. And there are a few others on here that play out like hardcore tracks almost, like the opener, which kicks off the project in pretty much the most menacing way possible. The vocals are very tortured sounding, and there are all of these extremely buzzing synthesizers and what I think are guitars that are just swirling in your face. They sound like they could have been lifted off of Inanimate Sensation, but I mean, it's a pretty good example of a soundtrack of going AWOL somewhere. You also have Empty AM, which has a lot more beatdown vibes going on, especially in the beginning of the track, but the angry nature of the song overall is mixed with this really sour mood, especially when the vocals come in. It's really unsettling and odd. Also, Password Incest was another one where I got similar vibes that also has a breakdown that carries out the last minute and a half of the track. I will say the title track was actually a little bit of a head scratcher and probably comes off as the most cryptic on the project. Where I was left a little disappointed with that one, though, is that it is placed directly after Password Incest, and the tracks overall kind of mimic each other as they both have a breakdown that ends the last minute, which, don't get me wrong, it's a pretty cool instrumental passage to carry out the song, but just kind of feels unnecessary as that happened on the previous track. But overall, I mean, I am just loving this album. There are just tons of details to unpack on here, some really odd song structures, and a wild energy to it that I just found to be infectious. You know how like Death Grips have described their music in the past as being accelerated? Well, I think that term can apply to this new band here, but almost like more accelerated. I guess my one critique of this project might be in the vocal department. Ultimately, if we had Ride on these tracks, it would be a lot better, but I understand this is a separate project. But I think, I don't know, this should have been the new Death Grips. But even still, a very small complaint. I did find myself being challenged by this record, which I do enjoy as a listener. And now I'm like, I don't know, kind of addicted to what's going on here. So with that being said, I'm feeling an 8.5 over here on Get a Star. So there are no physical releases of this project, unfortunately, just yet. No merch either, but I will have links down below to their Bandcamp so you can get your ears on this thing. It's also on all streaming platforms. And if you have listened to Get a Star already, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and share. And if you want more content from me, hit that subscribe button. Peace.